Holy shit. He said what?
Many people out there have been speculating on that Meghan Markle has lied about her age. Is she actually older?
Meghan was born, and she was born as a C-section, so she was put in my arm. I was the first person to hold her. Her little hand went on my fingers like that.
It's really quite sad.
Imagine being at a family dinner where someone casually blurts out,
"By the way, you 6 years older than you tell people."
Thomas had Meghan with his second wife, Doria.
That's not awkward small talk. That's basically what Meghan Markle's father just did.
Her childhood was with me.
And he didn't whisper it over mashed potatoes. He said it in front of the entire world.
I got it through high school. I got it through college.
Now, before you roll your eyes and think, oh great, another royal family scandal, let me tell you, this one's different.
I remember when she was born, big new addition to the family, and it was, we just have a very young sister here.
Because this isn't about tiaras, palaces, or who made who cry over bridesmaids' dresses.
No, I just made a little mark on my board and said, oh, there's another lie, click.
This is about something way juicier. Numbers, birth dates, receipts, the kind of scandal where even your high school math teacher could get involved.
That's one of my favorite pictures. I'd like to have that experience with my granddaughter.
Thomas Markle, sitting comfortably in Rosarito, Mexico, looked straight into the camera and basically said, Meghan's math doesn't add up.
And there was something, in my opinion, missing in their eyes. It didn't seem real to me.
And suddenly, people everywhere started digging through old magazines, alumni photos, and even dusty yearbooks like wannabe Sherlock Holmes. Some call it petty, others call it proof, but everyone calls it entertaining.
I've lost my dad in this, so him as my father-in-law was really important to me.
I don't know of anybody that cold to do this.
And here's the kicker. If what Thomas claims is even partly true, Meghan's carefully crafted royal fairy tale might have a crack running right through it. Because shaving 6 years off your Hollywood resume is one thing, but shaving it off while marrying into the British monarchy, that's the kind of plot twist even Netflix couldn't script.
She delivered it like an actress delivered it.
But apparently for me, that doesn't matter.
So buckle up, because if you thought the crown was heavy, wait until you hear how heavy these allegations are. All right, picture this. You're flipping through a vintage stack of glossy teen magazines, the ones full of cringy quizzes like which Spice Girl are you? And suddenly, sandwiched between ads for glitter lip gloss and butterfly clips, you spot something odd. There it is, in black and white, on page 90 of 17 magazine, March 1997, the name Meghan Markle, age 21. Wait, hold on, 21? That's when the internet collectively spit out its coffee. Because if Meghan was born in 1981, like the palace PR machine swears up and down, then in 1997 she would have been sweet 16, not 21, not even close. That's not a small oopsie, that's a 6-year gap, the kind of math error that would get you detention for the rest of the semester.
This is a copy of 17 magazine, and it was published in March of 1997. In it, it mentions our Megsy is from Los Angeles and that she was 21 years old at the time of publication. That would make her birth year at around 1976.
And here's the kicker. This isn't some shady website or gossip blog making the claim. It's a printed magazine, the kind your mom probably still has stuffed in a box in the garage next to old VHS tapes. You can't edit ink. You can't Photoshop paper. This isn't internet vapor. It's archival, library level, microfilm stuff. Suddenly, Meghan's timeline looks less like a straight line and more like a roller coaster drawn by someone blindfolded. Was it a typo, a misprint, or the first breadcrumb in a carefully baked royal cover-up? Nobody knows for sure. But one thing's certain, if your official age doesn't match what's in a teen magazine, then congratulations. You've just unlocked a scandal that's too good for TikTok detectives to resist. And trust me, they didn't resist. Now, if the 17 magazine slip-up was the appetizer, Thomas Markle's next claim is the full-course drama. Sitting in his chair like a man who's seen way too many plot twists in his own family soap opera, Thomas basically says the Meghan the palace parades around isn't the Meghan he remembers raising. He talks about birthdays that don't line up, milestones that feel suspiciously staged, and a daughter whose timeline seems to shift like a Netflix documentary that keeps adding new evidence. It's the kind of statement that makes you tilt your head and wonder if you accidentally switched channels from BBC Royal Special to Jerry Springer Palace Edition.
Thomas Jr. was 14 when Meghan came into the world.
Well, that's her first wedding in Jamaica.
And the delivery? Pure dad energy. Half disappointed, half exasperated, like he's scolding the entire monarchy for missing curfew. Whether you believe Thomas or not, his words add emotional fuel to the fire. This isn't just a random critic throwing shade. It's her own father pulling receipts and pointing out gaps big enough to drive a royal carriage through. And when your estranged parent starts throwing around dates dates that don't add up. The internet doesn't just listen, it binge watches every second. If you think the royal family runs on centuries of tradition and ironclad paperwork, think again, because in 2019, just weeks after Archie's birth, Meghan and Harry's shiny new baby certificate got a mysterious makeover. One day it listed Rachel Meghan Markle. The next day, poof, her first and middle names vanished, replaced with nothing but her royal title. Now, you don't need to be Sherlock Holmes to see the eyebrow raise here. If official palace documents can be quietly tweaked like a bad Wikipedia page, what else could be adjusted? Birth certificates aren't supposed to be like iPhone software updates. You don't just wake up and find version 2.0. Yet here we are, staring at a paper trail that looks less historic archive and more choose-your-own-adventure novel. Critics argue it's no big deal, just a cosmetic change. But for conspiracy hunters, it's jackpot fuel. Because if the palace can rewrite Archie's paperwork with a casual pen stroke, why not Meghan's too? Suddenly, the idea that her birth year might have been polished doesn't sound so impossible. And when royal ink starts to look erasable, the whole story feels less regal and more reality show.
I do love you, and I wish we could sit down and talk about it.
Here's the thing about Hollywood. The town runs on caffeine, Botox, and the magical belief that shaving a few years off your resume is as normal as ordering oat milk instead of dairy. Casting directors don't ask, can you act? They ask, can you still pass for 25 while paying a mortgage? So when sleuths suggest Meghan might have chopped 6 years off her age, it actually sounds weirdly practical. Imagine walking into an audition room at 30-something and competing with fresh out of college hopefuls. The odds are about as kind as Simon Cowell in a bad mood. But slide your age into the 20-something bracket, suddenly you're not the older sister type, you're the quirky best friend or the ingenue. Hollywood has made entire careers out of age gymnastics, and Meghan was hustling long before tiaras entered the chat. To many, the motive writes itself. Survival in an industry that treats birthdays like expiration dates. Sure, trimming 6 years might seem extreme, but in Tinseltown, it's practically a gym membership perk. And if that fib later snowballed into a royal-sized identity puzzle, well, that's the kind of plot twist no casting director could have predicted.
Meghan Markle has nothing.
Someday Meghan's going to realize that she's obviously missing out.
I think when I was 30, if I thought about 50, I thought that is an awful long way away. And I don't really need to think about it. And then I blinked and I'm 50. That's crazy.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer.
The royal wedding of 2018 was sold like a fairy tale sequel. A dashing prince, a glamorous American actress, and headlines crowning Meghan the modern 36-year-old bride. It was glossy, progressive, and perfectly packaged for global TV. But here's the catch. If Thomas Markle's math is right and Meghan was actually closer to 42 at the altar, that carefully crafted narrative suddenly looks less like Cinderella and more like a marketing campaign gone sideways. Because royal PR loves tidy numbers. A bride in her mid-30s? Inspirational. A bride in her 40s? Suddenly the headlines shift, the optics wobble, and the story loses that shiny, youthful fairy tale gloss. It's not that being 42 is scandalous. It's that the palace sold the world a different version, and consistency is kind of their whole brand. After all, these are people who still iron their shoelaces before public appearances. If the age storyline doesn't hold, then the royal image machine takes a hit bigger than Meghan's veil train. And when the world realizes the monarchy might Photoshop reality just like an Instagram influencer, the entire crown starts looking less like tradition and more like a PR agency with better hats. College reunions are supposed to be about awkward hugs, bad buffet food, and pretending you've been wildly successful since graduation. But when Meghan's Northwestern alumni photos started resurfacing, internet detectives weren't looking at hairstyles or fashion trends. They were eyeballing her classmates. And here's where it gets messy. A lot of those smiling faces around Meghan are now well into their mid-50s, which begs the question, was Meghan just hanging out with an older crowd, or was she actually part of that older crowd?
Has she made any attempt to contact your father since he had his stroke?
None whatsoever.
Social media did what it does best. Zoomed in, circled faces, compared wrinkles, and suddenly those reunion snapshots looked less like nostalgia and more like courtroom exhibits. For critics, the photos scream, she's older than she claims. For fans, it's just a woman at a party with friends who may be aged differently. But perception is everything. And on the internet, one awkward alumni picture can trigger 1,000 Reddit threads. It's not proof carved in stone, but it adds another breadcrumb to the growing conspiracy buffet. And once people start connecting dots between smiling yearbook poses and shifting timelines, the story stops being about photos and starts being about patterns. Give the internet a mystery, and suddenly everyone's a detective with a Wi-Fi connection. Reddit threads popped up like mushrooms after rain, with usernames like Royal Truth Seeker 92 posting side-by-side comparisons of magazine clippings, birth certificates, and college rosters as if they were unraveling a Cold War spy case. TikTok joined the circus, of course, with creators making snappy edits. Meghan's face at 21 versus Meghan's face at 15, set to dramatic dramatic music you'd usually hear in a true crime trailer. Twitter, X, turned into a meme factory overnight. One viral post had Meghan's alleged real-age photos next to Indiana Jones dusting off ancient relics. It was chaos, but the fun kind, the type that makes people feel like they've cracked the Da Vinci Code with nothing but a magnifying glass and a GIF. And that's the danger for Meghan. Once the internet decides you're a puzzle, every blurry photo and dusty archive becomes evidence. Whether or not the theories hold water doesn't matter. What matters is momentum. And right now, the sleuth army has turned her timeline into a global scavenger hunt. And when millions of digital detectives are on the case, the palace can't control the narrative anymore. As if the magazine clippings and reunion snapshots weren't enough, along came the juiciest whispers yet. Alumni rosters and event programs that quietly dropped Meghan's birth year, not as 1981, but as 1976, or now. Anyone who's ever skimmed a school program knows these things are about as exciting as watching paint dry. Yet suddenly, they're being treated like ancient scrolls from the royal archives.
Joshua Silverstein was her very first boyfriend. They were both only 13.
Online sleuths dug them up, dusted them off, and waved them around like treasure maps, proving the crown's biggest secret. Of course, critics argue that rosters can have typos, misprints, or sloppy editing. But for conspiracy hunters, every 1977 scribble is another golden ticket, another reason to shout, "Aha, caught you." The story snowballs quickly. One alleged typo turns into a breadcrumb. Breadcrumbs turn into a trail. And before you know it, the palace is being painted as the world's most dramatic, age-fudging agency. Is it definitive proof? But in the court of public opinion, where Twitter threads double as cross-examinations, a pile of half-baked documents can look just as convincing as hard evidence. And that's the beauty or the chaos of this rumor. It's not one smoking gun, it's death by 1,000 whispers. Now here's where things get awkward. Inside Buckingham Palace, whispers are swirling louder than the teapots. Staffers are allegedly fuming, not because of the receipts themselves, but because the narrative is spiraling beyond their control. The royals thrive on polished fairy tale optics, sparkling gowns, stiff waves, and photo ops with carefully staged smiles. But this age scandal, it's like dropping a glitter bomb in the middle of a royal banquet. Impossible to clean up without everyone noticing the mess. And yet, the official response? Absolute silence. No statement, no clarification, not even a polite, "we don't comment on personal matters." Just an eerie quiet, like waiting for a carriage that never arrives. The irony? By refusing to speak, they've turned a small rumor into a full-blown spectacle. Critics are comparing the palace's hush-hush approach to the disastrous Prince Andrew interview, where silence and denial only made things 10 times worse. And while aides stomp around behind the scenes, the public is left wondering if the royals can't even fact-check a birthday. How can they handle a monarch? Here's the plot twist nobody expected. Meghan hasn't said a single word, not one carefully crafted statement, not even a "that's ridiculous" tossed out through a spokesperson. Nothing. And in today's world, where celebrities clap back at trolls faster than you can refresh Twitter, Meghan's silence is almost louder than a press conference. Supporters argue it's brilliant strategy. Why fuel gossip when ignoring it makes you look above the drama? Critics, on the other hand, see it as evasive, like someone quietly backing out of a room while the smoke alarm is blaring. The internet, of course, is filling the vacuum for her, spinning conspiracy threads thicker than a Netflix documentary.
There's nothing original here.
I hope you're having the best birthday you've ever had. Thank you for everything.
Which is really such a fake.
Meanwhile, Meghan carries on with her podcasts, charity events, and Hollywood mingling as if the debate about her age is happening in a parallel universe. The irony? By saying nothing, she's letting both sides project their own stories onto her, saint or schemer depending on who's watching. And whether intentional or not, that silence keeps her name in the headlines longer than any official response ever could, which leads us straight into the bigger question. Can we really trust the monarchy's version of the truth? Here's the million-dollar question. If something as basic as a birth year feels shaky, what else in the royal fairy tale has been, let's say, airbrushed? For centuries, the monarchy has thrived on polished myths, crowns gleaming, bloodlines traced, and birthdays celebrated with cannon fire. But if Meghan's timeline is off, it pokes a hole in that shiny balloon. Imagine realizing your favorite fairy tale character fudged their age like a dodgy dating app profile. Suddenly, the story feels less magical and a lot more human. And that's the palace's nightmare. Once people start questioning one detail, they start questioning everything. Was that royal romance as organic as it looked? Were those carefully staged photo ops just, well, staged? The monarchy survives on trust, not just in its rituals, but in its storytelling. Without credibility, the tiaras start to look like props in a very expensive play. And if fans are already doing detective work over a birthday, just imagine what they'll dig into next. And that brings us to the climax, the part where all these threads tie together and the future of the monarchy looks shakier than ever. So here we are, after pages of receipts, family rifts, and palace silence, we've circled back to the question that won't go away. If Meghan's age is truly different from the official story, what does that mean for the monarchy's future? It's not just about a number on a birth certificate anymore. It's about whether the royal image, built on polished details and perfect timelines, can survive cracks in its foundation. Every unanswered rumor chips away at credibility, and when credibility falters, even crowns start to look a little crooked. The irony is delicious. One missing detail, one skipped explanation, and suddenly the entire royal narrative feels like it's wobbling on its pedestal. And here's the kicker. This isn't the first time a Samantha Markle has dropped a bombshell that shakes everything we thought we knew. If you want the full picture, you need to see what came out just before this video. Trust me, it connects the dots in ways that make this story even wilder. This is Star Spotlight, where we pull back the curtain on the stories the palace wishes would stay hidden. Stay tuned, because this scandal, it's far from over.